Hey everybody, it's Calvin the Go here, and I'm here with my One Piece chapter 1090 review. And I would appreciate if you guys give me a like, share, and subscribe if you're new. And let's get into it today, guys. So for today, my review, I'm not necessarily going to go over every little thing. I'm not going to go step by step in every little thing that happened in the chapter because most of it is a really dialogue centered chapter. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the main points of the chapter that I thought were interesting and kind of give my opinion on them. So let's get into it now. First of all, the Luffy and Gorosei conversation was pretty interesting to me, um, only because I didn't think that would kind of thing would happen. They're having like little negotiations or whatever, and Luffy thinks he's actually doing the right thing, and Luffy thinks he's helping, but he almost gave away some crucial information. As the silly man he is, he really just doesn't know what he's doing a lot of the time when it comes to like the smarts. So that's why he has the people around him because, like he said multiple times before, he can't do everything. I'm pretty sure he said this back in Arlong Park. He can't do everything, but he has people around him who can support him and can help him in the ways that he does not know how to do. So, I think that's pretty cool that Robin was like, hey, but then they noted that Robin was in the background. I'm kind of worried about Robin in this situation here because everything has been everything has been relatively fine for now, but when it comes to this, it's like, are they gonna go after? Are they gonna really target Robin? Are they just gonna try to go after Luffy? Like, I don't know what like, and we know Rob Lucci is leaking information to Kizaru, so I just want to know what their main motive is here. Like, do they just want to stop? Like, I know they were saying they want. You know what? I think the main motive is the Mother Flame. At the end of the day, they want Gorkin. They want the Mother Flame because they know if they can get the Mother Flame, they can create these weapons, and then it's just gonna, their power is just gonna be insane. Um, but yeah, that and also Morgan's was listening in. I think that's cool because that kind of gives us another way for the bounties to rise. From the incidents that's going to happen, because if this was like a really isolated incident with no one else around, how would they get bounty raises? How would things like that happen? It would all try to be swept under the rug when it comes to the marine side of things or the CB0 side of things. So that was the first part of the chapter that I wanted to talk about. And Robin and Kaku, they are severely injured. Especially Kaku, he was literally laying down, had bandages all over his body. Um, it kind of sucks that things got off screen, but then at the same time, I kind of can see both sides where it's like, did we really need to see them, going back and forth with the Seraphim? We knew the Monster Trio would handle things in their respective battles. But Kaku got cooked. And we also don't know what happened to Robin per se. We don't know if it was necessarily a Seraphim or if it was something that York did. There's a lot of things that we aren't really sure about when it comes to the situation. But at the end of the day, here we'll probably get a little bit of a flashback. We'll probably be able to see a little bit of what happened at that incident. I don't know if we'll get everything per se, but we should be able to get something. I would assume at least. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Uh, and Kaku also noted that he fought two Seraphim, but at the same time, a lot of people did. Lucci did, Luffy did, Zoro did, and none of them are injured like he is. They have little nicks and knacks, but I don't think they're not sitting there, down and out, right? And then the Seraphim, speaking of the Seraphim, they're locked in the little sea stone bubbles. Um, they have little nicks and knacks, nothing too big. The one that Sanji fought has like has a little dent on his, like, it looks like a little scratch or dent on his neck. They're a little bit scuffed up, but nothing too serious. So it seems like maybe they didn't defeat them or they just knocked them down. I don't know what happened there. Um, but yeah, the Seraphim, they were handled for the most part. You know, the main fighters of the crew are fine, even when after they ran into the Seraphim, just kind of showing the difference between someone like Kaku and someone like Zoro, Sanji, Luffy. And the thing is with Sanji, he was like a little bit of agenda here, but the thing is with Sanji, he was the only one fighting alone. Brook was knocked down. Nami was tending to what's one of the other Vegapunk satellites. So yeah, yeah, he was the only one fighting alone. Got punched in the face. Didn't have a scratch on his face. So that's in my opinion that's a really impressive feat for Sanji. They didn't defeat them, of course, but they were able to, I don't know, hold them off until things going on. Because I think the one thing that I'm kind of trying to figure out when it comes to what happened overnight is at the time Lilith was petrified. So I guess the order of operations would have had to be maybe Luffy talks to the S Snake. S Snake unpetrifies Lilith and Frankie and Usopp, and then they kind of go around doing stuff like that. I don't know, or maybe they knocked them down and then they were able to get the bubble shit. I don't know. A lot of this is speculation, of course, but I would like to get a little more information on it. Maybe not like a full like, okay, Zoro did this, Zoro did Astra, Luffy did whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I need that, but I do want a little bit more information when it comes to how those things played out. And also, S Snake is in love with Luffy. Very unsurprising. Obviously, we knew that was going to be a factor. It's not really surprising at all. I don't think a single soul. I heard Brago say this, or someone say this. I heard them say, "If you are surprised about this, maybe you need to stop reading One Piece." And honestly, I agree. Or you need to go back and reread because that's one of the most obvious plot lines I've ever seen when it comes to One Piece. That S Snake would fall in love with Luffy. So it's literally in her, their DNA, whatever. Um, Also, one more thing I want to talk about that is I think it really kind of gives more credence to that the Seraphim will eventually have hockey if they have, emotions like this. If you have emotions like that, if you're able to feel things like that, I think you're gonna have willpower. I think you're gonna be able to have hockey eventually. And thinking about some of these Seraphim with hockey, observation hockey, armored hockey, maybe even Conqueror's coding on top of what they already have, and being adults and having more battle skill. I mean, like I think what Vegapunk said has credence where they might literally be some of the most strong creatures of all time because it's like just their base power with being a Jinbei, being a Boa, being a Mihawk, being Kuma is insane, right? And then also Dofi, a crocodile as well, on top of Lunarian durability, laser beams, potentially being able to get hockey. I mean, they just have a bag, right? So moving on. So we got Luffy, Bonnie, Frankie, Lilith are going to the um, Sunny slash Vega Force One, so they can get off of the island. Vegapunk was noting earlier that if they use the Vega Force One, they should be able to get decently far enough, and it might. I think it's gonna crash down if they get too far away from the island, from Egghead Island, but it should be able to help them get away from the fleet. At least that's what they're hoping for. Um, and Luffy is pretty suspicious of Bonnie because she's acting rather happy-go-lucky. Um, but it's hard to tell what this one is. It could easily be a red herring. Like I think some things with Oda, like when you think something is relatively too obvious, it's kind of something else. It's kind of like essentially what happened with her is she was crying all night, and then Luffy's kind of wondering why she's happy now. I think she maybe have could have came to terms with some of the things that she saw in Kuma's flashback. I think that's another reason why she didn't want to kill Vegapunk anymore is because she probably understood that what he did wasn't necessarily wrong, and Kuma was on board with a lot of the things. And I don't think that she really wants to blame him for what happened to Kuma as much. Um, Also, if it's not Katarina Devon just trying to confuse everyone, Bonnie did say some really nice things about Sanji. She said he's a great cook and a strong fighter. Obviously, as we already know, but it could be nothing. But I don't know. They seem like they could be a good pair. This is the woman who loves to eat, and Sanji is the best cook in the world. So that maybe could be a thing one day. I don't know, but there is a potential that this is Katarina Devon as well. But my main issue with it being Katarina Devon is how did she get in the dome when the dome was at 100% at that time? Um, they were pulling up, and who knows? Maybe they got onto the island, got onto the dome before everything went down. That that's what's hard about this. Like eventually we are gonna see some Blackbeard pirates, and these are the ones, Luffy and the Katarina Devon, who should be relatively good with stealth. So we'll have to see what happens there. Let's see. Kizaru in Saturn, they had a really decent they had decent conversation, and we do get some insight on Kizaru's morals and how he was talking about how he will not ignore someone who is fighting for their life and fighting for their what they believe in, because that is against his ideals. And Kizaru was someone that who's has always been very, just nonchalant, just kind of go with the flow. We haven't really got much insight into his character and into what makes him tick. So I'm really excited to get more of that. I think this is going to be an arc that we see a lot more from Kizaru's fighting style and his character, especially if he maybe got defeated. I don't know if that'll happen. I don't think it probably will, but if it does, I think Oda's really gonna go into fleshing out this character, in its entirety. And in the final pages of the chapter, Kizaru uses Yatano no Kagami and attacks Sentomaru. Uh, Sentomaru being able to block that, I don't really see much problem with it. I think this is more of an emotional thing. They're gonna have like a little bit of an emotional battle where Kizaru has to maybe strike down and kill a close friend of his, and this is Sentomaru just last stand. That's kind of how I see him being able to block Kizaru. And Luffy senses that Kizaru is nearby. They even talk about lights. I know people are trying to cope and say it's not Kizaru when literally the title of the chapter is called Admiral Kizaru. But I digress. Um, yeah, Luffy seemed relatively shook that Kizaru pulled up. I don't even know if he necessarily knew that it was Kizaru, but he was able to sense that a very powerful person was nearby. And I think the interesting thing with that is a lot of people are trying to say, "Oh well, he wasn't shook about that in Sabaody. He wasn't shook about that back in Marineford when he on all three animals together." Well, first of all, what people I don't know how they forget this, but Luffy obviously didn't have observation hockey. If he knew what kind of power he was against going in there, I think it would have been much harder for him to like really just go on. And I know he has that willpower, but I think just the pressure of being up against people way much higher than you. If you have observation hockey, I think that would kind of deter you from doing certain things. Of course, Luffy is going to be the king of the pirates one day, so that wouldn't have deterred him. But I don't think he would have been nearly as confident. And also, we need to remember he literally did nothing to him because he doesn't have armament hockey, and he just threw some ice at them. Um, I think another thing to kind of talk about when it comes to this is with Luffy and being potentially a little bit worried. I think he is maybe worried about the other members of his crew. I don't think he necessarily is worried about Zoro or Sanji, maybe not Jinbei either, but the weaker members of his crew, if they ran into Kizaru, they would be absolutely cooked. There's nothing they can do about it. A lot of them don't even have basic armament hockey. Usopp doesn't, Nami doesn't, Robin doesn't, Frankie doesn't, Brooke doesn't. Like a vast majority of the crew doesn't even have a way to really harm him. Um, Maybe Frankie has those gauntlets they're talking about, the light gauntlets, but again, that's a way for them to touch Kizaru in a way that isn't even their own, you know, isn't even their own bag. It's just someone else's technology giving them a way to potentially harm Kizaru. So yeah, most of them don't even have armament hockey, so they won't even be able to damage him. Maybe Robin had an option. I don't know. But yeah, that's an interesting tidbit there. And basically wrapping it up. My thing is with Kizaru. I think I think the OG3 admirals are vastly superior than the newer ones, Green Bull and Fujitora. And I will say that the main reason is just their portrayal as combatants. When Green Bull put up to Wano, Luffy really didn't care at all. They were just they were just chilling. They were eating. Sanji even was like, "Oh, we don't get to fight," and all this stuff. They were smiling. They did not care at all. When Green Bull pulled up, but now he senses Kizaru and he feels. I mean, he had sweat coming off his. I know people don't. I know people don't like sweat scaling, but other people use sweat scaling for other things. And it seemed, and Luffy seemed like he was sweating. And Luffy, his eyes were dilated. It seemed like he's like, wow, there's someone powerful nearby, someone who could hurt my crew, hurt the people around me who I care about. So, and then also when it comes to Kizaru, he wanted to intercept Big Mom and Kaido, while Green Bull himself said I wouldn't even be in Wano if Kaido was still here. So the point of what I'm trying to say is these new admirals are not nearly as strong as the OG3, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru. Those guys are different monsters. They all were able to fight Whitebeard relatively evenly. Kizaru was stunning on him, had his leg on his Vicento. I mean, these are different guys. They do not fear the Yonko. They don't fear anyone in this world. I think so. You know, we had a pretty good chapter today, guys. It mostly was set up for things to happen in the future. I don't know if next chapter things are really gonna start popping off, or it's gonna be a little more setup. I don't know when the chapter is gonna come out. I know there's supposed to be another break, so we've been down bad with these breaks. But anyway, at the end of the day, I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Like, share, and subscribe if you're new. Calvin the Goat signing out. I hope you guys have a good day. And comment down below if you had any ideas for videos in the future. Have a good day, guys.